Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Madman. So this was a first time watch for me. I pretty much went in blind. I've wanted to check this out for quite a while because it's a 80s summer camp slasher, and the 80s, that's the quintessential time period for slashers, and especially summer camp slashers, like of course the Friday the 13th franchise, Sleepaway Camp, The Burning, stuff like that. So I mean, other than those two franchises I mentioned and The Burning, like there's really not many other summer camp slashers from the 80s. There's some super obscure ones, but for the most part, like, those are the big ones. So this was another one of the big ones, and I'm a fan of those other films that I mentioned, but yeah, I was not a fan of Madman. It was honestly kind of hard to get through. It was very boring in my opinion, and it really did not have a whole lot going on. It was like formulaic. It just, I don't know, it wasn't it. So yeah, it was not my cup of tea whatsoever. But anyways, before I ramble too long, let me get into the plot summary. So you have this group of counselors, like camp counselors. They're sitting around a campfire, and one of the counselors is telling this story of this local legend. There was this gentleman named Madman Mars. He was a farmer. He went nuts. He murdered his entire family, and once the townspeople figured this out, they killed him, and they like lynched him, but they like checked back the next day, and he was gone from the noose. So it's said that he still haunts the area, and if you say his name louder than a whisper, he'll come back and get you. So after the one counselor wraps up the story, another counselor uh, you know thinks this story is just one big joke, so he says Madman's name pretty loud, and of course that like awakens Madman, that summons him, and he comes back and he starts killing off all these counselors. So yeah, that's the basic plot summary. So getting into some of my notes here, the first thing that I have to mention is the characters in this were extremely bland. Here's the deal with slasher movies. Slasher movies do not call for complex characters. You don't need any character development. You can kind of have one-note characters in a slasher movie. That's totally fine. But at the same time, like, even though the characters don't have to be complex, they have to be memorable and entertaining still. Like, you can't just have, I don't know, you can't have characters that aren't complex and aren't memorable. Like, it just doesn't work. They gotta be either or. And yeah, none of the characters in this were memorable. They were just disposable. They were just bodies on screen to be killed. I don't remember anyone's name in this. I don't like, there was no like fun or funny lines. Like, there was this one alcoholic guy. I think he was like the chef. I thought he was gonna be like comic relief. He was boring. When your token alcoholic character in a slasher movie is boring, then you're having problems. So yeah, all the characters were bland. I did actually recognize one of the actresses. One of like the lead actresses in this was the woman who was in the original Dawn of the Dead, and I'm a fan of that movie. So it was cool seeing her, but her character in the movie was still boring. But I do like that actress, because Dawn of the Dead, that's a fantastic movie. But anyways, yeah, the characters in this were lame. The setting for me was I mean, stuff like Sleepaway Camp it feels like camp. Even The Burning really, it really feels lived in. Like you got the kids joking around in the mess hall. You have a lot of daytime shots of them like at the lake messing around. Those movies feel like camp. This movie, it really did not feel like camp, and there were some cool kind of rustic looking cabins, and a lot of the movie took place in the woods, but I think my problem with it was, even though some of like the actual location itself was very serviceable and it looked like a camp, there was like the whole movie was shot at night. Like I was reading the Wikipedia and it was like they were doing all night shoots, and yeah, the whole movie takes place at night. There's no daytime shots. I personally would have liked in the first act if they kind of started out with some daytime shots, and there were kids at the camp, so maybe the kids are doing some camp activities. Maybe they're, you know, I don't know if there was a lake at this location, but maybe they're what do kids do at camp? Maybe they're playing a game. Maybe they're, you know, I don't know, eating lunch in some rec room or mess hall. I don't know. Whatever. Like, it would have been nice for there to be some daytime shots. Of course, you want the majority of the kills to be set at night. I get it, but I would have liked some daytime stuff and some of the kids, some of the campers doing some camp activities. So, even though the actual location in this was not bad, it was definitely serviceable, the movie did not have the camp feel that other summer camp slashers of this time had. So that kind of brought the movie down for me. And then, just to be 100% honest, I thought Madman himself was kind of goofy. I thought the makeup on him was pretty well done. He had these like super long fingernails, and he had this kind of zombie look, and his nose was all like chiseled. He had all these scars and stuff. The makeup on Madman was good, but I don't know. Maybe it was like the actor or stuntman who portrayed him. Maybe he was just awkward. Like Madman just kind of, I don't know. Like whenever there was a moment and it was supposed to be like tense, like Madman popping out of a clearing and you see him slightly, or he's like creeping around the corner. It was like laughable, but not even in a fun way. It was just like he was just not intimidating. There was like no tension in the movie around Madman. He was just goofy. He would make these like weird guttural grunting noises. I was not into Madman himself, so that's not good. You got to be able to take the actual killer seriously. Like, even if the movie is, you know, goofy or not the best movie, like you can't, like the killer has to be intimidating and scary, and I did not think he was. Jumping on to a totally different point, there's kind of a connection with this movie and The Burning, because they were both in production at the same time. They both were released in the same year, 1981, and the filmmakers who made this, they were initially gonna, like Madman was initially, instead of being about Madman, it was gonna be about the Cropsey legend, like The Burning, but then they realized that The Burning was doing that, so they totally switched up. So who knows, maybe if they did go with like their initial script, their initial plan, where it was supposed to be about the Cropsey legend, maybe it would have been a little bit better. But just since these movies were both in production at the same time, they have, you know, a similar setting. They initially had like the same premise, and they both came out in the same year. I'm gonna compare them, and you know, The Burning, I did a review of. It's not one of my like all-time favorite 80s movies. Like I like the Friday the 13th movies and Sleepaway Camp movies more than I like The Burning, but I do like The Burning. It's a solid 80s slasher. The Burning, if we're gonna compare Madman and The Burning, because like I said, they're kind of comparable movies. They're kind of in a, I don't know, similar wheelhouse. Yo, The Burning is 30 times better than Madman. Like I said, like there's fun, likable characters in The Burning, great camp setting. Cropsey is awesome. He's got those like big shears, those big almost like scissors, and he's like just all blacked out with like the black gloves and the black hat. The Burning is way better if we're gonna compare them, but that's the thing. This movie, I guess you gotta take that into consideration. It was plagued with a lot of different stuff where the filmmakers didn't want to do the same thing as all these other movies. And when I was reading up on this, it seemed like these were like first time filmmakers. They were some young guys. They wanted to cash in on the slasher craze, and this was pretty much like an independent effort. It wasn't like a big studio production. So I mean, even though I personally did not like this movie at all, like I do give the filmmakers credit because it seems like they only made it for like 350,000 and they like barely got funding, and it was like a real independent effort. So I do appreciate that, and you know they tried their best. It's hard. Like, could I make a movie like this? Probably never. But yeah, I think they did put a lot of effort into this, but I personally thought it was not good. Getting into the kills, they're pretty basic, but there was some decent blood and gore. There was a decent variety of kills, nothing too creative, but you had like the one alcoholic guy, he got his throat slit, that looked pretty good. You had a couple decapitations. There's this one guy who was like hung on a noose, and it was kind of cool because he was like actually climbing up. He was like hung from a tree and he was climbing up, which you always think like, why don't you try to climb up the noose or like climb up the tree or the post that you're stuck on? And he actually did that, which I thought was cool. Like, you don't see that a lot, and that was really smart. And then Madman just came through and like pulled him down and snapped his neck. That was kind of a cool kill, and I do like I said, how he's like pulling himself up. You're always thinking in your head like in that situation you'd pull yourself up, right? So yeah, the kills in this, they were okay, they were serviceable, nothing great. They were hit or miss. They were all right, but there's this one kill that was a cutaway that kind of was super disappointing. So at one point, Madman is holding this one counselor up overhead, and that shot actually looks good. It's like lit really well, and it's kind of foggy. That looks cool. So Madman's holding this counselor overhead, and you think he's gonna like bring him down and snap his back on his knee like Bane did to Batman, but no, like Madman is just holding this guy up, and then it just cuts to Madman dragging the person's feet away. So, I mean, that was like the most egregious cutaway in the movie because they set it up like, okay, cool, he's gonna break his back, he's gonna snap him in half, he's gonna do something crazy, and then boom, cutaway. So that was kind of a missed opportunity and pretty disappointing. Like, I don't know why they would set it up so cool like that if they're just gonna cut away. They could have just had like a more generic, basic setup for the kill, like, oh, they get stabbed and then it cuts away. Like, okay, then it's not that like anticlimactic. But this setup was like pretty cool, and they just did nothing with it. So that was disappointing. And then my last point that I want to get into is this is supposed to be like a summer camp movie, but I don't even know if it's set in the summer, because there's this one instance early on when they're at the campfire, and I could have sworn the guy was like saying that there was one weekend left before Thanksgiving. So I don't know, like that didn't really ruin the movie for me, and I don't know if that's exactly what he said or that's how the writers meant for it to come across, but yeah, like that didn't make me hate the movie, but I was just like confused. I'm like, isn't this supposed to be a summer movie? You're saying this takes place one weekend before Thanksgiving? Like, it's I don't know. I was just confused. Like, that was early on in the movie too, and I was like, I don't know. I was confused. So I thought I would mention that, but I just want to mention that briefly. It's neither here nor there. It still feels like a summer camp movie, so that's all we need. That's all good. It's, you can't really overthink a summer camp slasher movie. But anyways, that was the last point I want to get into, that I wanted to get into. And in terms of a recommendation, I would not recommend this. There's so many better 80s slasher movies, so many better summer camp slasher movies, I would say skip this. There's really, I don't know, nothing going on in this movie. It's just generic, basic, bland. I don't know. There's nothing more I can really say about it. So yeah, skip Madman. It's not worth your time. But anyways, that has been my recommendation, and that has been my review of Madman. Thank you all very much for watching, and peace out.